19 minutes past 8 then here on BBC Radio Solent. Lou Hannon in for Alan Newman. A very good Monday morning to you. Now, we all know how our lives can change direction. In some cases quite suddenly in the past couple of years have changed the lives of many of us. Well, one extraordinary example is the story of Sammie McFarland, a mum from Dorchester who became sick with long COVID along with her teenage daughter. Well, Sammie then set up a group for other parents dealing with the frightening symptoms of an illness few knew anything about, and it is now a global charity. Well, Sammie's charity, LongCovidKids, has been asked to give evidence to the COVID inquiry. And Sammie joins us on BBC Radio Solent this morning. Sammie, a very good morning to you. Welcome back to the programme. Tell me more about what you're hoping to achieve then.
Well, thanks for having me. Today is really about setting out the intention of the inquiry, and our legal team will be talking to the inquiry team to make sure that we fully understand what's expected of us, and making sure that we have all our ducks in a row, basically ready for when everything starts in the spring. We're hoping to explain more about what we are hoping from the inquiry, so that there was no acknowledgement in the early pandemic that SARS-CoV-2 could cause chronic illness in the way that it has, and ask why it's been ignored consistently by the government in policy-making decisions. We want to talk about the healthcare funding for long COVID being so inadequate, to ask why there are no public health measures to stop more people from getting long COVID, because it's a preventable health condition and there's currently no cure. And then for my charity specifically, we really want to understand why children's COVID-19 infections, hospital admissions and deaths were analysed against the adult data rather than the paediatric population, because this made it really difficult to understand what was happening to children during the early part of the pandemic.
Sammie, we've spoken to you a lot here on BBC Radio Solent, covered your story over the months and the years now, it seems. Did you ever imagine that you could be in this situation? I mean, what you're talking about now is a massive undertaking, and to be an authority on what is a new disease, I mean, I bet you wouldn't have even imagined this sort of 3 years ago.
No, I didn't imagine it, and I didn't want it. It's been a necessity. It's not just me. There are two other charities, and we've joined together with Long COVID SOS and Long COVID Support. And there are, I think it's let me just double check the figure because I want to make sure I get it right. I think it's currently 3.5% of the population who have long COVID. It's a massive health crisis, and I just really I want to make sure this doesn't happen again in future pandemics, and I want to make sure that those that have been impacted by long COVID are really cared for.
And what do you want to do specifically then to press upon the inquiry about how people can be protected from contracting long COVID in the future?
So lots of our members have given statements, and these will be represented by the legal team. We have an incredible KC and two barristers and a solicitor representing us, and then they will be using their experiences to really contextualise exactly why it's important to protect children, young people specifically for my charity, and in fact all people, because obviously the other two charities mainly represent adults, and looking at ways we can make sure that doesn't happen in the future. So for us, I really want to hear what we're going to do about improving indoor air quality in schools, because that's the only way that we know how to reduce transmission, in indoor environments where there's lots of children mixing together. Masks aren't popular. Unfortunately, they're necessary, but they're not popular. And so we need to find ways that we can move forwards, and that is improving the indoor air.
Sammie, just finally, how does your daughter feel about the lengths that you have gone to, that you're going to raise awareness and to help other young people with long COVID and to protect them too?
She's really proud, but she's also really angry that we haven't been listened to before, because when we started this journey, all we wanted to do was send up a flare and warn other people, and we thought that the government would come forwards and make sure other people didn't end up like us, and that hasn't happened. And now there are so many millions of people ill like us, and it was all preventable. So yeah, I'm very grateful for my family's support, because it's been a huge undertaking.
I know we will follow you with interest over the coming months as well. Sammie McFarland, mum from Dorchester, who set up that charity LongCovidKids, speaking to us here on BBC.